Hi guys, Guy Writes becomes Guy Recaps because today we're recapping Shutter, 2004, directed by Banjong Pisanthanakun and Parkpoom Wongpoom. Shutter is widely considered one of the greatest Thai horror films ever made. Subscribe and enjoy. A group of college friends are having the time of their lives at a party, laughing, drinking, and enjoying the night. Among them is Tun, a talented photographer, and his girlfriend Jane, who is also studying photography. Everything seems perfectly normal, but by the end of the night, one decision will ruin their lives forever. As they drive home, both of them are drunk, so Jane takes the wheel. The road is dark and almost empty. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a young woman appears in front of the car. Bam! Jane slams into her before she can even react. The woman is thrown onto the road, barely moving. Horrified, Jane immediately wants to get out and help her. But Tun panics. Instead of calling an ambulance, he convinces Jane to leave before anyone sees them. He tells her they'll get into serious trouble if they stay. It's one of those decisions that seems easier in the moment, but ends up haunting them forever. The couple speeds away, leaving the injured woman lying alone on the road. The next morning, both of them are overwhelmed with guilt. They expect to hear about the accident on the news or read about it in the newspapers. But strangely, nothing happens. No police investigation, no hospital reports, no missing person case. It's as if the woman never existed. Trying to move on, Tun returns to work as a photographer. During an event, he captures several ordinary pictures, but when he develops them, he notices something impossible. A blurry white figure appears in the background. At first, he assumes it's just a camera defect, so he checks the negatives. The figure is still there. His senior photographer examines the photos as well and confirms that the strange figure isn't a printing error. Something or someone was actually there. Tun tries to ignore it, but the strange events only become worse. Jane begins feeling as if someone is constantly watching her whenever she's alone. One day, while working in a photo development room, she notices a pale young woman slowly crawling out from beneath a sink. Frozen in fear, Jane stares at the terrifying figure, and then suddenly it disappears. She convinces herself it was only her imagination. But deep down, she knows something is terribly wrong. Around the same time, Tun also starts seeing disturbing visions. Sometimes, for just a split second, Jane's face seems to transform into that same mysterious girl. The haunting becomes impossible to ignore. When they compare everything that's happening, Jane reaches a terrifying conclusion. The ghost haunting them looks exactly like the woman they hit with their car that night. As if that wasn't disturbing enough, Tun develops another unexplained problem. Ever since the accident, his neck in constant pain. No matter what he tries, the pain only gets worse. He finally visits a doctor expecting to hear that it's just muscle strain. Instead, he receives news that's even more bizarre. When the doctor checks his weight, Tun somehow weighs nearly twice as much as he should. Nothing about it makes sense. It's almost as if he's carrying someone. Unable to find logical answers, Jane begins investigating the supernatural. She visits a store that specializes in ghost stories and paranormal photography. The owner admits that most ghost photographs sold to the public are fake. But then he shows her a private collection. Unlike the others, these photographs have never been edited. According to him, spirits sometimes appear in photographs because they want to send a message. Once they enter a picture, they refuse to leave. Jane immediately notices that these mysterious photographs resemble the strange images Tun has been taking. For the first time, the horrifying possibility becomes impossible to ignore. Someone isn't just haunting them. Someone is trying to tell them something. The terrifying encounters only become more frequent, and this time, they're impossible to brush off as hallucinations. One day, one of Tun's old college friends suddenly shows up at his house in a state of complete panic. He's sweating, trembling, and barely able to speak. The only things he keeps asking about are Tun's photographs and a girl. Before Tun can get any answers out of him, the man rushes away. His behavior makes no sense. How could he possibly know about the ghost? Meanwhile, Jane decides to investigate Tun's past on her own. She visits the college where he studied photography and enters the old photography lab. Curious, she takes a picture using one of the cameras there. The moment the photo develops, the ghost appears here once again. This isn't just following Tun anymore. It's connected to this place. As Jane nervously looks around the lab, she suddenly feels someone standing behind her. A photograph unexpectedly falls from a shelf, startling her. She picks it up. It's a picture of the same mysterious girl. Determined to learn the truth, Jane searches through old college group photos. Then she finds it. There's Tun standing right beside the girl they've been seeing. So they knew each other all along. When Jane confronts him with the photograph, Tun realizes he can't keep lying anymore. He finally tells her the truth. The girl's name was Nature. She wasn't a stranger. She was his classmate. And at one point, they were deeply in love. Everything seemed fine until Tun suddenly decided to end the relationship. Nature couldn't accept it. Heartbroken, she threatened to take her own life if he left her. Feeling trapped, Tun confided in his closest friends. Instead of helping him solve the situation peacefully, they promised to handle it. Not long afterward, Nature disappeared from college completely. Tun claims he never knew what happened to her after that. Jane isn't convinced. If Tun really knows so little, why is Nature's ghost targeting him? Before they can figure it out, tragedy strikes again. Tun rushes to the home of the same friend who had visited him earlier, only to find the apartment completely trashed. Moments later, his friend walks to the edge of the building. He looks absolutely terrified, as if he's staring at something no one else can see. Then, without saying a word, he jumps. The horrifying incident shakes Tun to his core. Soon afterward, the man's wife revealed something even more disturbing. Her husband's death wasn't an isolated case. Every single one of Tun's close college friends has died the exact same way. They all threw themselves off buildings. At this point, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Someone is hunting them down, one by one, and Tun knows he's probably next. Believing the answers lie with Nature, Tun and Jane visit her family home. There, they meet her elderly mother. What they discover inside is beyond disturbing. Nate's skeletal remains are still lying on her bed. Her mother never buried her. She simply couldn't bear to let her daughter go. Through tears, she explains that Nature died after jumping from a building. The exact same fate that claimed Tun's friends. The connection is undeniable. Jane gently convinces the grieving mother that Nature deserves a proper funeral and a chance to rest in peace. After much hesitation, she finally agrees. The funeral is held. For the first time since the nightmare began, Jane believes everything is finally over. But that night, she couldn't have been more wrong. As Tun sleeps, he suddenly wakes with the familiar feeling that someone is watching him. He opens his eyes. Nature is standing right beside the bed. Terrified, he bolts out of the room and races downstairs. Except, no matter how far he runs, he somehow ends up back on the same floor. Again, and again, and again. It's as if the house itself has become a prison. Then he sees Jane. She silently raises her wrists, revealing deep cuts across them. With tears in her eyes, she asks him a single question. "After everything I gave you, why did you do this to me?" Before Tun can answer, Jane's face slowly twists into Nature's. Panicking, Tun climbs out the window, desperate to escape. But Nature is already waiting for him outside. Consumed by fear, he loses his balance and falls. He survives the fall and wakes up in a hospital the next morning. But while Tun is recovering, Jane is about to uncover the horrifying truth behind everything that's happened. Back in the city, Jane can't shake the feeling that something is still missing. Nature's funeral should have ended the haunting, but it didn't. Determined to uncover the truth, she carefully examines every photograph Tun has taken. Laying them out in chronological order, she notices something strange. In each photo, Nature's ghost is moving. Frame by frame, she's getting closer to a particular bookshelf inside the photography lab. Jane searches the shelf and discovers a hidden set of missing negatives. When she develops them, everything finally makes sense. And the truth is far worse than either of them imagined. The photographs reveal that the old photography lab wasn't just a classroom. It was the place where Tun's friends brutally assaulted Nature. They blamed her for emotionally manipulating Tun with threats of suicide and decided to teach her a lesson. But the most horrifying part, Tun was there the entire time. He watched everything happen. Instead of stopping his friends or protecting the woman he once loved, he stood there with a camera in his hands. He photographed the entire assault. Not because he wanted evidence, not because he wanted justice, but because he was too afraid to stand against his friends. Those missing negatives were the proof everyone tried to hide. Now Jane understands why Nature's spirit refused to move on. She wasn't seeking random revenge. She wanted the truth to be exposed. Heartbroken and disgusted, Jane confronts Tun. This time, he doesn't deny anything. He admits that he failed Nature. He confesses that he has never forgiven himself for standing by while her life was destroyed. He knows he deserves punishment. But for Jane, an apology isn't enough. Unable to look at him anymore, she walks away, ending their relationship. Now completely alone, Tun realizes Nature's ghost is still with him. Desperate to find where she's hiding, he grabs his camera and begins taking photographs throughout his apartment. He checks every room, every hallway, every corner. Nothing. No ghost. Frustrated, he throws the camera across the room. The impact accidentally triggers the shutter. One final photograph is taken. Tun picks it up, and his blood runs cold. Nature wasn't hiding somewhere in the apartment. She had been with him the entire time. sitting silently on his shoulders. The unbearable pain in his neck, his impossible body weight, it all suddenly makes sense. Nature had never left him. She had been carrying out her revenge from the very beginning. Before Tun can react, nature places her icy hands over his eyes. Blinded by terror, he stumbles forward helplessly, step after step, until he walks straight off the edge of the building. Sometime later, Tun wakes up in a hospital, barely alive. His body is covered in bandages and he can barely move. Jane comes to visit him one last time. Seeing his condition, she can't hold back her tears. As she walks toward his room, she glances at the glass door and freezes. Reflected in the glass, nature is still there, calmly sitting on Tun's shoulders. Even after everything, she never left. The film ends on that unforgettable image, revealing the horrifying truth behind Tun's mysterious neck pain and weight gain. His punishment was never death alone, it was being forced to carry the weight of his guilt, literally and figuratively, until the very end. And that's what makes Shudder one of the most unforgettable supernatural horror films ever made. Its scares aren't built on cheap jump scares, but on guilt, trauma, and consequences that refuse to stay buried. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely time.